Hey everyone, here we are for Presence, day number 38 of a 100-day Joy-Based Spirituality workout. And today I want to talk about self-trust and secure attachment. There's a lot of fear being drummed up in the world right now, and I do not watch the news. And my Facebook feed is pretty clean from a lot of the fear mongering that's going on right now. But I'm feeling it from people. I'm feeling it from people that I know well. I'm feeling it from people that I'm just walking in the city and I can just kind of pick up on it. It feels like cognitive dissonance to me. It feels like, okay, so the opposite of a sense of deep knowing, the opposite of a sense of deep trust is a grabbing on to either fear or desire, one or the other. People are feeling afraid and they're clenching, or then they're feeling like desire. Richard Grannon talk about desire to control when you feel out of control. That's what I'm picking up on. Now, the reason we're doing this series called Presence, 100-Day Spirituality Workout, is to stay more anchored into and closely aligned with your deepest truth, your knowing. The biggest regrets that I've had in my life and that other people, I always think about like people who are like 100 years old or older, or people on their deathbed. Their biggest regrets are the times that they knew something, that they had a sense of knowing and they didn't follow it. Well, why wouldn't somebody follow it? That would be either because of fear or attachment to another desire, which I think is also under the heading of fear, but it looks different, it quacks different. So the way I wanted to bring this home today for you, because we each have our own experience of listening, right? To me, spirituality is listening deeper and trusting deeper. And when we listen and we trust and we have a belief in ourselves, we can navigate with more confidence, with more smoothness, with more serendipity, laughter, and magic, even amidst the noise. So many of you have been following me for a while, so you're familiar with the JBL Trifecta, the Joy-Based Living Trifecta, which includes spiritual connection, healing trauma, and peak performance. So let's talk about what embodiment looks like for each one of these arenas, because it's through embodiment that we have the strongest experience of relating to our own knowing and our own truth. What we want to grow is a sense of connectedness and community with others who also are trusting their own sense of embodiment versus being distracted by the fears and desires that are just really, really loud out there. Let's start with healing trauma, because I think that when we start with healing trauma, we talk about the essence of healing trauma is self-connection. And so when we look at self-connection and we look at what does secure attachment feel like, secure attachment in this, I'm pointing at the wrong one. Sorry, it's backwards on my screen. When we're talking about healing trauma, we're talking about secure attachment. Secure attachment, and you can feel this in your own body in the way that you would describe it. The way that I describe secure attachment in my own body, it feels like a deep sense of knowing. It feels like a deep sense of security from the inside. It feels, this is going to sound very spiritual, but it feels like infinite patience, because my knowing feels very secure. When I'm mentoring people and I have a sense of clarity about them and I feel a sense of confidence about them. I feel, I'm sorry, my computer's giving me signals. I feel a sense of infinite patience because I have a steadfast gaze inside of myself on seeing them happy and joyful. And I see that if I see that possibility for them, I work with them. If I don't, I can't work with them. So when I see that, it's like this, there's like an unshakable, unmovable sense of clarity inside. And it's like a touchstone that I keep going back to, because people will try to convince you that they can't, or that they're smaller than that, or that they're incapable or whatever. And I just keep going back to that. So self-connection feels to me like, I mean, a secure attachment feels to me like I feel it in my belly. It feels solid. My belly area feels solid. Okay. Now let's talk about, what does secure attachment feel like when it comes to spiritual connection? For me, you tune into this, what do you feel on an embodied level, and what feeling sensations come up for you? Spiritual connection, when I feel secure attachment with a sense of spiritual connection, it feels like I'm floating on water, like in a really relaxed way. You know, that feeling of like, if you know how to swim, you certainly, if you know how to swim, you know how to float. And I think that's true for everyone. That feeling of floating on calm water, on an embodied level, that's what spiritual connection feels like to me. It does not feel like dissociation. It feels like dissociation from the chatter in my mind, but it does not feel like dissociation from my body. I can be in my body, but I feel like I'm floating. I don't feel like I'm running away from stuff. I feel like I'm connecting into a sense of belonging with the whole universe, where I am granted information, creative inspiration. I am open. It feels like openness. And the feeling of floating feels the same way. I could be floating in outer space or floating on water. But even when I feel like I'm floating, like in outer space, I don't feel abandonment. So it's like feeling a floating sensation without feeling disconnected from myself. That's why I started with the healing trauma part. When people try to jump into spiritual connection and they haven't handled the healing trauma part, I call that spiritual bypassing. Some people call it, I don't know how other people define spiritual bypassing, but that's what it is to me, is when people try to do this when they haven't taken care of this. And it can be very tempting because this can be very uncomfortable. This is where we become emotionally literate, is healing trauma. We turn toward our emotions and feelings, the things that we've been running from, that have perpetuated the trauma to begin with. They might not have created the trauma, but they're the running from those feelings and running from ourselves is what creates the trauma. And when we run from ourselves, we run from our bodies and we run from our knowing. And this topic today is about embodying secure attachment within each one of these areas in the JBL trifecta. So we talked about this. We talked about spiritual connection. For me, it feels like floating and without abandonment. So what does spiritual connection feel like for you? Spiritual connection for me also feels like when I'm really, really there, I feel really, 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 really loved, like by the whole universe. Like I'm just adored by the whole universe, like a little princess. Like really, it's a very sweet feeling. So I'm not just floating in an empty space way. I'm floating and feeling really, really, really loved. And that's an embodied sensation. And it's an embodied sensation of belonging. So here, when we're talking about secure attachment, I'm belonging to the universe. Here, when I'm talking about healing trauma, I'm belonging to me. And remember, when I say me in these audios, in these live streams, I'm talking about myself in a way that I want you to be thinking about yourself. What does belonging to you feel like to you? What does belongingness to the universe feel like to you? See, I can only talk about myself in full honesty, right? That's my experience. But my hope is that it triggers in you your own honesty of your own experience. Then we talk about peak performance. To me, this is connection with the world. This is contribution. This is art. This is creativity. This is our interface with the outer world. And so going back to the topic of secure attachment, what does secure attachment feel like with others, with other people, with the world? Nobody ever achieves peak performance all by themselves. So even if we stayed in the topic of secure attachment with other people, we need other people in order to do great things in the world. For me, secure attachment feels like I can speak without fear. It feels like I can speak. When I speak, I feel energized. When I think about speaking to a certain person, I don't feel defensive. I don't feel like I have to justify. I don't feel doubtful. Secure attachment feels like an easier willingness to simply pick up the phone and say, here's what's going on with me. Or let me talk about this creative idea that I have with you. And I don't feel like I'm going to be laughed at or disbelieved. And so I know I put a lot of don'ts in there, because what I don't feel, let me see what it feels like in my body. In my body, I feel it's a feeling of a sense of belonging. It's a feeling of a sense of I'm okay as I am. It doesn't matter if I'm wearing a really fancy dress or tattered jeans. The person I'm speaking to, their eyes will light up. That feeling of I'm loved. I feel loved when I am embodying secure attachment in this arena. See, when we focus a lot here on healing trauma, we want to give ourselves and other people a safe, comforting, pleasant atmosphere. But what I have found is that that's not enough for living a really joyful life. I also want to feel like I'm hitting the mark on things that are important to me, that there's some kind of performance that I'm excited about. I want to shine for people that I love. I want the people that I love to go, oh, yay, look at you. And I want to be able to do the same for them. So I guess a word for that would be a felt sensation of reciprocity, that the feeling that they know that they can call me and talk to me about whatever as well. And so that's a feeling of safety. So secure attachment is a feeling of safety with other people. So within the world that we're living in right now, which it's a little bit, it's a little loud. It's a little bit loud. You can use it. I'm using it as spiritual muscle building. That as loud as it can get out there, I've done my homework. I know what cognitive dissonance feels like. I know what dissociation feels like. I also know what secure attachment in myself feels like, but I'm still human. And so sometimes, if the fear is really loud out there, I can start feeling cognitive dissonance. Somebody yesterday was describing it to me like she was just feeling like wavy. And I was like, oh my God, and foggy, wavy and foggy. Well, I titled this series Presence because I want to help you. I want to be there for you. And I want to help myself to be more strongly embodied in the truth of our being, and the truth of your being, and the truth of my being, as the changes go on out there, as people are experiencing more fear or more grief or more confusion. I want to be as clear and as solid as I can on the inside. And I believe that that will keep me more aligned with my own intuition, and that will help you do the same for yourself. So what you can do if you want to is look at these three topics and ask yourself, how much secure attachment do I feel with myself? How much secure attachment do I feel with the universe? And how much secure attachment do I feel with others, with the outer world? Now, what I have been realizing in the last few days that I'm really thrilled about is that this triad, this trifecta, is like a container. And in this container, you get to put whatever nutrients you feel that you need. What I have found is that when it comes to joy, that all these three nutrients are necessary. So you can ask yourself about how well you're doing in each area, how secure you feel in each area. Now, I do want to bring one more little piece to the mix because I think that it brings them all together in a kind of a very intuitive way. And that is like art and doodling. When you perform some kind of art or creativity or some kind of, it can be gardening, it can be scribbling, it can be music. When you do that kind of outflow from your being, I think that you strengthen all three of these. The act of creativity is an act of self-trust. And so you build self-trust in the process because there's also curiosity of what's going to come out on this next blank canvas. I wonder. And you access those parts of yourself. I believe that the more we believe in our own self and the more we establish ourselves in a sense of secure connection, secure attachment, the more we can trust ourselves in an instant. That the better choices we're going to make when we have to make instantaneous decisions, we're going to be quicker and more sure-footed in making fast decisions when we need to. So, whoa, I know we went a little bit deep there, but I think we've had and we have back here the 12 practices where we really practice honoring ourselves, feeding the cow, the container of worthiness. We practice embodiment all throughout the 12 practices, right? So talking about the trifecta on top of that, and now bridging that to the word usage of secure attachment. I find it fascinating that I need to, and so many people need to have this message repeated over and over and over and over and over. And I think my hunch is that the reason we need it repeated over and over and over is because the world itself, the common culture conversation, can be so very distracting. And we're here because we want to feel awesome. We want to feel joy. So let's keep growing that together, each one of us in our own little container gardens, and sharing with each other how that is, how it's coming along. Because as we share, whether we're feeling challenges or we're experiencing successes, we learn from each other, and as we watch each other grow, we only strengthen the bonds of our own joy, and we strengthen our ability to trust the process because we're not alone in it. And that's one of the other reasons I'm doing this as a daily live stream. So I want to remind everyone, please comment at Patreon. I love reading your comments, and please don't comment here at Crowdcast because I do not get any notifications for them. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you more than words can say. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.